How do we raise this argument in a way that we can win in a secular environment? That's huge. And as some of you know who listen to our show, I was a secular atheist for 27 years that picked on people like you and me. And because I simply thought Christianity was false. Well, in the very same way that you aren't persuaded when someone were to cite a Quran to you or material from L. Ron Hubbard or material from Urantia or a little magazine in front of a donut shop, you're not impressed in the very same way the world views us and our Bible. And so the Bible is inadmissible evidence to a secular culture. If all you can do is argue, "Thus saith the Lord," and it's written on the law of your heart, we're going to lose. Part of the story of why we got where we are when Paul asked the rhetorical question, how is it that we're being ruled by such a minority? Part of that story is Christians thought that the only place that they could serve the Lord was on the mission field or in the pulpit. And they gave the universities and the life of the mind over to, quote, the world. And they just wanted to have faith. And you learn early on that Christianity is not about truth and reason and the intersection of faith and reason. What you do is you learn that it's all about faking it. And so Bill Maher can go on The View, as he did last week, or Matt Damon, his comment about Sarah Palin and the dinosaurs, and that is completely predictable. They should be asking that question. Now, here's the deal. You can't throw Romans 1 at them. It's not effective. It doesn't work. So how do you reach them? Here we go. That's what I want to share with you. So now, suppose we're in a college classroom, and I say, class, we're going to study now the effects of same-sex marriage on culture. Where should we look? Where same-sex marriage is legal. There are 9 countries in the world in which same-sex marriage is legal. Let's take a look and see if there is a great benefit, a cultural benefit of any kind, through the legalization of same-sex marriage. When you examine, Maggie Gallagher at marriage.com has done this. David Barton from Wall Builders had him on. He gave me the information as well. You can find this on the internet. Just start looking. Here's the deal. When given the opportunity, how many same-sex couples actually bother to marry? You heard Paul mention 4%, 5% of the population is gay. Okay, what percentage of that 4 or 5% bother to get married? You'll notice that since the marriage decision was handed down, there have been only hundreds of gay marriages performed in California. Not thousands, hundreds. So isn't that a fair question? How many in those 9 countries where same-sex marriage is legalized, what percentage actually bother to get married? I want you to write this down. 2%. So this idea, we have just so many people that are clamoring to get married because of the equal status and they want the protection and the divine touch of love and whatever. 2%. Because they don't do it, first of all, in great numbers. What is the effect of same-sex marriage? Well, we know. When you look at those 9 countries, this is not guesswork, this is Sociology 101. When you look at those 9 countries, what you will find is that there has been an explosion in what? Someone guess. An explosion in out-of-wedlock births. Why is that important, Frank? Here we go. Watch, connect the dots now. Remember the category. The category is, I'm going to give you an argument to persuade your secular neighbors. You don't have to lead with Romans 1. Here it is. If only 2% of same-sex couples bother to get married, and there's a 46% increase in out-of-wedlock births, what does it have to do with me? Here's why. The sociological research that has been done since the 1960s in the war on poverty, war on crime, war on whatever it is, the ideology of the Great Society, we know that the number one sociological factor that has contributed to poverty, drug abuse, alcoholism, crime, prison population, etc., is fatherless families. If we are inviting a 46% increase in out-of-wedlock births, you are asking for a continuum. You're asking for children now to have less of a home life, therefore difficulties at school, increasing burden on mom. Think of all the single moms you know. Okay, you're going to a 46% increase. Huge, okay? So you got all these single moms, you have trouble in school, more dropouts, which is a huge problem when you have half of all the Latino youth that live in urban America don't graduate high school. Half of Latino freshmen never graduate. 80% of black freshmen never graduate. We are already at crisis point. You think these out-of-wedlock births, people are going to be living in North Claremont? They're going to be poor. You're going to swell the welfare rolls, and children that are poor, single mommies, the pressure, bad school, dropout rate, bad training to compete in a global environment, additional pressure on them to, quote, get real jobs. The other side of the political aisle is going to press for raises in minimum wage because you're going to have a whole bunch of these people who are basically low-skilled blue-collar because they can't compete anymore because they're bad students and dropped out of high school at ever-increasing rates. And by the way, they're going to increase in crime because in alcoholism and drug abuse, and then more crime to feed those habits. So you're going to have an increase in an explosion in crime. Just think, half of the problem single mom units with children another half's going to be added to that. Half, not 5%, half. At the end of this day, you lay out the argument, here it is. Your taxes are going to go up. Your taxes are going, this is not taking into consideration the pressure on the entitlement programs of Social Security. And the fact that we have a declining population, our demographics are declining. The only reason we're stable right now is because of immigration, both legal and illegal. In order to maintain a stable population, you need a birth rate of 2.1 per female. We are less than that if you remove the immigration factor. America's population is slowly declining. Our assumption of our government system, the way in which this welfare state works, is it makes the assumption of an ever-increasing population in order to pay for a larger and larger workforce to pay for the retirees. You've got the baby boomers retiring, that'd be me, and that means the pressure on you, put it this way, if you're under 30, your tax rates are going to go up gigantically, let alone the same-sex marriage issue. Are you with me? Okay. So the dynamic is, here's how you bring it up to your neighbors. Wow, how many gays do you think same-sex couples actually get married when given the chance to? It's a fair question. That's nothing offensive about that. Okay. Do you know that out-of-wedlock births jumped 46% in those 9 countries where same-sex marriage has been legalized? And your taxes are going to go up as a result of this. Let alone the destruction of the family and all the other things, right? That's powerful. It works. I've done it on the radio with same-sex advocate callers. Because now you're saying this is a big benefit, and yet there comes at such a huge social cost. And that's a good argument. Because think of something else that, hey, I want to raise your taxes. I want fatherless families to increase in this country by half, another 50%. We have 30 million. Okay, let's have 45 million. What impact will that have on public education? I mean, go down the list. You're asking for future dropout criminal drug addicts, hookers, to go down the list. That's what you're going to get. Not a real loving message, but that's the reality. Most of the states, the countries that have same-sex marriage are socialist. Tax rates in Denmark, by the way, this makes the liberals very jealous. The highest tax rate in Denmark right now is 68%. You have a shrinking workforce, more entitlements. You're going to either have to reduce the entitlements, which means cut Social Security, which as a voting bloc, that ain't going to happen with the baby boomers, or you increase taxes on those that are working. If you're under 40, your taxes are going to skyrocket, especially if same-sex marriage goes through. That argument works.